Well, obviously, just wanted to say thank you once again. Obviously, I sat up here last week and talked about making this environment, this opportunity, and then capitalize on it, and made a special appeal to our fans to make it a home field advantage. And I know there's been times where that's been shown up over the last 4 years, different times. I distinctly remember, ironically, the UTSA game when Josh McCray scored going into that end zone and saw the student section erupt, and that was UTSA on a losing cost, right? So I had a feeling to have a ranked opponent like Michigan, defending national champ, to come in, and if we're able to do good things, we might hear that crowd pretty good. And thought we heard it for 4 quarters. And plus, turned around and there was a bunch of people around us out on the field. So just a really good feeling. I want to say thank you to you guys as well, not just the media that's here, but media that covers us, right? Obviously, we had to play the game and put it in a position to be successful, but the coverage around it, even CBS, I shot Ness a note, and I thought everything they did to make that game very special, very unique, was pretty awesome. To have them do our game this week has been pretty cool to communicate back with them that they're going to have us going forward. I thought for all the people that have been coming to Illinois games for a long time, that day had built up for a long time. Lauren, to see your article, just to see the bits and pieces of history that have unfolded, and then now to be a part of that. The only regret I had the whole time is because of those jerseys, those uniforms, and those helmets, I never really went through our players what the process needed to be afterwards, so they all tried to grab them and snake them, right? And created some tense moments for our equipment staff, and truth be told, Jake Ross and our equipment staff and a lot of people in athletics really made those moments really special because of the work they did to create those uniforms, to give Nike a lot of feedback, Nike itself to give us the opportunity. So, again, just a million thanks to a lot of different people to make that crowd what it was. Not only a crowd that was here, but a crowd watching it. Obviously, not everybody can come to an Illinois football game that wants to come because of the location and distance and factors in their own life, but I think we had a lot of fans watching it at home, and then also I think we created a lot of new fans. It's been fun to see people reach out, say things to me, hey, never been an Illinois fan before, but we are now, just really, really good things. So rewarded on Sunday, guys, as MVPs offensively, we gave it to Tanner Arkin and Josh Geske, and I thought those two guys, very unique pass and stories, right? So Tanner came in as a transfer through the portal, and has been in our program now, and really the rewards of what you see from him physically are the things that he did through Tank and our development and our philosophy there. And Josh Geske, ironically, was a guy that I used showcased Friday night at a speech that he gave before fall camp started about during his time here, the challenges he faced coming in during COVID, the things that a lot of freshmen come in and battle through. I talked last week about, taking 365 days of our preparation to win a game like that. You didn't have to just start that week. It starts a long time ago. Well, Geske's journey started 3 years ago, right? And have him put himself in a position to develop the body physically, mentally, the skill set with Bart and the offensive line, but he played his best game since I've been here, arguably against two of the best players he's played against all year, right? So to see a guy play that way, I've always said this, I had an offensive lineman, in my opinion, Gabe Karimi, was a guy I coached in the past who was a good player, was probably a high-level third, second, maybe a first-round guy, and he had a stretch during our first Big Ten championship year where he played against Michigan, Ohio State, and I believe Iowa. There was Claiborne was a D lineman. He blocked those guys up 3 weeks in a row against good competition and jumped himself into the 24th pick in the first round for Chicago Bears. I think that came from playing against good people, right? So I really challenged our guys. You want to make a name for yourself, start playing good against good people, and good things happen. So really excited. Those two guys, our defensive look guys, were Gentle Hunt, T.J. Griffin, Vernon Woodward, and Demetrius Hill. All really did a great job defensively. We took a lot of guys into account just to play that way. Obviously, I know you know the stats. Aaron just got up here and debriefed you, right? But we gave it to Dennis Briggs, Dylan Rosiak, Seth Coleman, T-Rod Edwards, Matt Bailey, Zeke Holmes. And last but not least, Gabe Ackus, who also within the last 10 minutes, it's been announced has become the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week, right? So just to have the culmination of him in that game was really cool. Our offensive look guys, Aaron Ball, P.D. Olay, Hugh Bengers, and Mario Sanders, those guys always do a great job, but really did a good job last week. And then our special teams MVP, Zeke Holmes and T.J. McMillan, and our special teams look guy, DJ Demetrius Johns, just really had a good week overall as well, as well as in our game plan. So with that, we'll turn the page. in the game that ahead of us. Obviously, a chance to play the number one team in the country is always special. New Oregon going into this season was going to have a very good football team. However, it played out when we made this trip. We knew that it was going to be on the back end of a 4-week window here, where we have 2 home games back to back with Purdue and Michigan. Now to go on the road, our biggest trek of the year. Obviously, we went to Penn State. Still have to go to Rutgers on the back end, but just logistically, miles-wise, this will be the longest trek we have. Because it's going west, we're leaving on a Thursday, so it brings a lot of unique preparation into our week. Shortens our work week as coaches, not really as players. They're just going to leave a day early. We'll take full advantage of that and all that goes into it. A lot of education with our players. They've done things very, very well about living their routine, so now we just got to adjust our routine a little bit, but still live the routine the way it needs to. Have a super amount of respect. A young coach in his career, Dan Lanning, as soon as I met him several years back, but down to be around him since coming in the conference and what you've seen him accomplish in his career already. Just a very bright, intelligent football coach who's very gifted, and then the background that he shares being with Kirby and Nick, you can see the accomplishments he has already done and what's ahead of him. A very accomplished football team, good players all over the place. Offensively, a quarterback, in my opinion, that is playing as good as anybody in the country. A guy that really gets rid of the ball. He's been a couple different spots, but he's learned along the way, and has made Oregon his home, and seen different stories about what he watched and growing up and what he was. This dream to play at Oregon is really special to him. So when you got a quarterback in that environment with a team around him, is always a challenge. Defensively, they're very good, very well coached. But I like our guys. I like our crew. I like the way our guys have responded. I think this is a nitty group, a group that just kind of does what they have to do to get things done. Unfortunately, have been staying pretty healthy. Really don't expect to have anybody from this past game that won't be at this week's game. Everybody's cleared and ready to roll. So got to be very smart in our preparation. Super excited. I didn't even realize this. Read Bret's notes that this is my 200th game as a head coach. So once again, proved to myself I'm getting old. But I see all these other coaches get accomplishments and things, and I see that. It just kind of blows my mind. Just super enjoyable ride that we're on right now, and super excited about this weekend's opportunity and making the most of it. So with that, open up for questions.
Success and winning kind of usually breeds a positive buzz within any organization or team. Are you feeling that from inside the program with the guys and with the staff?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, everybody, I think, loves winning more than losing, right? But the repercussions or the rewards of that, right, are just national exposure. To be, I don't know if you've gotten your Bret's bonus stats he always gives, right? Like, I don't know the last time we played 2 back-to-back CBS games. I'm sure it's been a little bit. So that's a positive for those that follow recruiting. I'm expecting to get some good news soon, I would imagine. So I think there's going to be some byproducts of that for us in the recruiting world. We're really starting to, Pat and I have really talked about what I'm doing during our second bye week, and we've kind of adjusted and tweaked how we're going to go about that to get some specific targets and be around some people that we want them to feel our presence, all right? So that's a big one. And then just overall, like I made an appeal last week to make that place feel special. The more we can fill that to a sellout crowd, that makes life in Department of Intercollegiate Athletics here at the University of Illinois. It makes it better for our university. It makes it better for our guys in NIL opportunities. It makes it better in a lot of different ways financially, right, which I think is a really big thing of today's world, especially in college football. So, yeah, a lot of positives.
Aaron talked about really simplifying things defensively again. I guess in your time as a coordinator and a head, what's the value of that? It's just to kind of dial it back and do what's comfortable.
Yeah, I've never been a big call sheet guy, right? And I kind of really stressed that coming out of the Purdue game. Like, less is best is something that I really believe. Now, defensively, I think you say that. Offensively, I don't know if that's the case, right? But defensively, the more that they can line up and get in a position, I always say this, the more you get your cleats in the grass, right, and set for a moment before the play is snapped and know what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it, that really helps defensively. So offense guys always have 3 unique advantages. They know the play, they know the snap, and they know what they're doing once the ball is snapped, right? Defensive guys can't get lined up till they're lined up. They don't know the snap, and they don't know what they're doing until the other guy moves, right? So the more confidence you can instill them before the ball is snapped, the better off you can play.
You've had a great deal of success before you had a family,
Mm-hmm.
but now you have a family. How much more fun is this to have the girls there, your wife there, just go through what that's been like the last couple of weeks? Seems like you're always having a good time with them.
Yeah, I just think it just makes those moments that much more special. Listen, I love every moment of winning with my team. I think our guys feel that, but I think part of that is as I developed a family. I remember being a young coach at the University of Wisconsin, told them I was getting engaged, and the place went crazy, right? And Aaron Henry was a player, and he came up to me and gave me a hug and said, congratulations, right? So it kind of made a statement to me back then that, like, when I have a family, I want our family, which is my football team, to see me with my family, right? So that's a big one. I know Jen was super excited because of the timing of that game, a 2:30 game. We didn't have any dance conflicts or gymnastics or whatever we're doing, whatever the flavor of the week. The girls were talking all week about getting to go into my game, the whole game. They were at the Illini walk. And then pretty much standard normal, if they're in the crowd, Chris Williams and the security do a great job of getting those kids to me because I want them to share in that moment. And then Jen, it was Jen's idea, my wife, right? Happy wife, happy life. But she said if we could do that exit through the stadium, that we go over there in the tower to have the girls in my arms or to have the girls with us was pretty awesome. And, Brexley was high-fiving fans like she was, a seasoned NFL vet. And then they got over there and they're like, I'm shaking. And I think they were faking the shaking, but they were pretty excited. So Jen's coaching them up on their on-camera demeanor. Apparently they don't smile enough. So we gotta get them up and rolling. But, yeah, a special day on many levels.
Brett,
Yep.
It seemed like on Saturday that JMO felt really good about rotating his guys in his room in and out. And
Yeah.
I was curious, since camp opened up, or even before then, what you've seen in the development of that room.
Well, first, JMO, in my opinion, is the best defensive line coach in the country. He, I've known him for a long time, promoted him now a couple times. His maturity, his growth as a coach just continues to just pour over into our players. I think our guys know sometimes if you don't phrase it the right way, guys are mad when they're getting subbed out. You just see our guys just kind of move in and out. It's kind of something I learned, even better way to phrase it when I went to the NFL. If you got a guy that's over that 290, 300-pound range, a lot of guys don't play more than 40 reps. Like, you try to keep that window, that sweet spot of big guys at a place where they can play effective football and play well. So, you look at T.Ry. Edwards, who's literally matured through our process and understand how we're doing things, and he is playing at such a high level right now that I think he'd be the first to tell you he plays a lot of the snaps, but we also roll him quite a bit, and he's rewarded because of that. So, yeah, I think Dennis Briggs played his best game. Alex Beret has just been another kid that just continues it, and he's such a young player. His ability to play with extension and run and do some things, I'm excited about that room.
You've been reaching out to high school recruits since that Michigan win, and how's it gone so far?
Yeah, we literally started that night. There was a lot of recruits. We actually had more offers on our campus than any other point in my career since being here at Illinois. So there was a lot of guys on campus. It was kind of funny to walk through that crowd, and all of a sudden you'd see somebody familiar face, and I'd grab them. The locker room was awesome. But, yeah, I started talking and communicating with guys that night. And then on Sunday, there's some rules now that are in play, who we can contact and not contact. But even the guys that I can't reach out to, they were reaching out to us. Had a guy that was committed to us who's a really good player for us. Unfortunately, he rolled his ankle the night before, right, and sent me a text that morning. But to go back and forth with him before, during, and after, not during, I wouldn't text him during, but after, have those guys watching, that goes a long way.
You mentioned after Saturday's game is that by winning you made this coming week bigger, and
Yeah.
moved to number one, which I think makes it even bigger. I mean, is there going to be much talk about, I don't know, the moment or opportunity? Is it just this is Oregon, we're going there, and
No, good point. I think for me as a head coach to ignore that would probably be silly, right? I know that the last time Illinois played here, like I saw Jay talk the other day, right? So, I'm sorry, last time on the road, correct? Was with Jay. So they don't come around very often. Even when I was, at Wisconsin, we were rolling and winning 3 straight Big Ten titles. I didn't get to play number one very often. We did it once, beat Ohio State. That I know that one jumps out of my mind. I believe in the SEC. I played Alabama a couple times. They were number one. Mississippi State, I believe, was number one. We had them down to we led the whole game and unfortunately couldn't close. That was when Dak was there. So to get those moments are great, but a lot of times it's kind of like it doesn't take 100 years like last week's Fiesta, but if Texas had beat Georgia, my guess is Texas probably would have stayed at number one. So when I saw that unfolding, I was at dinner at the Champaign Country Club with my family and a group of friends, and we were kind of watching that unfold, and I'm like, well, looks like we're going to play number one, right? Because that had to happen. So I think it's an awesome thing. So we got to know that that's the number one team in the country. There's a reason they're number one. They're a very good football team. They execute very, very well. But how we play is going to be in our hands, and how we plan is in our preparation. So I think that part doesn't change very much.
A couple of times, like when guys regurgitate what you say,
Yeah.
you kind of know you've got something. Like, how did you cultivate? 'Cause it seems like they do that. They
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel like you cultivated that?
I don't think there's a lot of mixed messaging. No, I would also tell you, right, like I don't let a lot of people talk to our team, right? Like I've been here 4 years, and we've had guest speakers. We have guest captains. Josh was off the charts on Friday. That message was unbelievable. I know our players regurgitated him. So I think I kind of learned there too, right? If you have repeated messages, they'll go. And Josh gave a great message, but I know it maybe sounds like I have a lot of messages, but I really don't compared to other places. Sometimes people, put out a new bumper sticker every week, right? Like I kind of stay with the same thing. And at different times I emphasize different things. And that's probably what I hear more than anything. Like last week, there was definitely 2 or 3 messages that I literally read, several times the same messaging, right? So, but then it permeates into the crowd, right, into the fan base. And I can't tell you how many people. I have some of our biggest donors were on the field or were at the game, and they would like text me something along the lines of tough, smart, dependable, or everyday mentality, like whatever it was, and I think that's when you can kind of gain in, like if it's not. I try to build a foundation on principles, right? And you can't build the top top floor or the upper level until you build the foundation. So we've spent a lot of time building the foundation. Now we're going to start layering it up, and I think that's when it really starts to take effect.
You talked about capitalizing. We need to capitalize on it and recruiting on this. I mean, obviously the sell gets better, and you can sell these certain things. But is there anything specific you can change when you do well in recruiting, or to capitalize on it?
Well, to be honest, right, NIL is a donor-driven business, right? Like, and you got to have the, that bank account has to match what you can give out, right? And I haven't held back, right? 2 years ago or last year, we were in what I've been told, the lowest NIL budget in the entire conference, and in my opinion, we underperformed in a season that was frustrating, right? This year we're I think somewhere in the right about the 12th, 13th spot, right? So we're not quite midway. We're about a third of the way up. So we're in the top part of the bottom third. So I'm not saying that's where we want to live, but if we can start getting ourselves in a position just to be in the top half, right, and be in that moment, I'm excited about what I can do, and that's why I keep telling Josh and administration, like, if you just give us the opportunity, right? Like, I think some really good things can happen. I think what's great is when we got here, I partnered with Brad right away. Like, he was a guy that we knew commonly, and I know where they stand in the NIL world in basketball, and they've been rewarded very well because of it. If we can get in that moment, I think that football can sustain that. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, recruiting sometimes now isn't really recruiting. It's budgeting, right? And I think we can do that very effectively. But we just got to make sure we have the right type of budget.
Does that apply to the transfer portal? You have former transfers playing huge roles this year, really key roles for the team. Is that part of it too? Looking at the portal after the season?
Well, I think one of the greatest assets I had no idea I was living when I was dealing with was to go to New England, to go to New York, and be in the NFL for 3 years, and realize the effect that free agency can have on your roster in a short amount of time. And I distinctly remember I was a defensive line coach in the New England Patriots, and there was an article written before the year started that we were the lowest paid defensive line in the NFL, 32 of 32. And at the end of the year, we were the number one performing defensive line in the NFL, number one at 32, right? And those guys, after we got done that year, Danny Shelton, Lawrence Guy, Dietrich Wise, those guys all then signed the largest contracts in their NFL careers after that year, right? And that showed to me what a great moment with, in my opinion, a good opportunity can be rewarding for a student, right? Or in that case, a player. And we kind of do some of that stuff here, right? I would just tell you that, overall, our guys are taken care of, but probably not. And I know there are probably a half a dozen guys on our roster, four guys on offense, and I know for sure 2 guys, maybe 3 guys on defense that were offered probably double the amount of money, if not triple the amount of money that was afforded here, and they turn it down because they know what they're being developed to be. I always say NIL money is great. The I stands for instant. in NFL money, the F stands for forever. And we've been putting out NFL players around here and also in my career as good as anybody in the country. And I think that attracts a lot of good players.
Did you remember the past, prepare for the future mentality, kind of compared to the amount of guys in your roster that were here in 2022, saw the start, and then saw how that year finished?
There is that, but I would tell you that's a one that, so we have 4 team goals, right? And the first one is remember the past and prepare for the future. That was voted in by our players at the beginning of the year. Now, we had a list of 28 items, and then I kind of shimmy it down to about 10 to 12, and then I talked to the leadership council, and I came up with combining those 12 things into 4 ideas, and then I sent it to them, and they just kind of like, Coach, love it, da-da-da-da-da, and we kind of build it off of there, right? So that one was player created. Now, it's a messaging that I think we say and talk a lot about, but I'll point to it a lot. I'll circle it and talk about, I usually start my meeting with the tough, smart, dependable block I, and then over on the side are our 4 season goals, and I'll usually hit something like when we were playing Purdue. Right, there's a goal that was very specific about getting a cannon, so I just kept circling the cannon every day, right? And last week was a lot about, hey, we've been in this moment, right? We had a chance at Penn State, and we didn't take advantage of it, so I talked about, hey, remember the past and plan for the future. So the best part about Penn State was, right, that it happened. It's obviously the worst part was the loss, but the double worst part, if that's a word, right, is to not capitalize on what you learned, right? And our guys did that. And then this week to go on the road to Oregon, right, to have Penn State in our hip pocket and a part of our past, that I've been told it's the most intense, loud environment. I played there as I was a GA, and it really wasn't a close game, so it probably never got as loud as it could be. But I know we're going to Oregon with the preparation, understanding that this will be the loudest venue that we've ever played in, right?
Have that many guys on your roster know how 2022 started? And
Oh.
Does that have any benefit at all?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Luke wasn't here. Melvin Priestley wasn't here. J.C. Davis wasn't here. Tanner Arkin wasn't here. On defense, Dennis Briggs wasn't here. I think Alec Bryant was here. Yeah, there's some defensive guys, Miles and those guys. But I do think we have a locker room that really communicates. And I think guys share stories, right? So I see T-Raw Edwards and Dennis Briggs together every day, right? I'm pretty sure T-Raw shared with them that story, right? I think there's guys in our locker room that communicate and talk on a regular basis way more than I see them talk, right? So I think our guys share those stories and those moments, and that's probably what makes it happen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.